At the center of the universe, at the border between the light and the dark, stands Castle Grayskull. For countless ages, the heroes of Grayskull have defended the universe against the forces of evil. Walk through the Hall of Living Pictures and learn the history and mystery of the Masters of the Universe. Dive deep into the mythology of Eternia, Etheria, and more. For those who know the stories of Grayskull will come the power. The power to be supreme. The power to be all-knowing. The power to be Legends of Grayskull.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 35 of Legends of Grayskull, the fan podcast where we discuss the history, the mystery, the magic, and mythology of He-Man, She-Ra, Eternia, Etheria, Nordor, Primus, New Adventures, Old Adventures, Golden Books, Comic Books, Star, Mini, Ladybird, UK Annuals, anything and everything you can think of with that He-Man, She-Ra, Master Universe, Princess of Power logo. I'm Matthew Dooch. I'm here with Shawn Scavarna. Shawn, how's your neck doing today?
Well, I guess I can now be called Whiplash because every time I do the headbanging thing and me being over 40, I mean, you know, it's no good. But hey.
Oh, good. Oh, good.
I went out earlier today to see about any Origins possibilities for my kids. No luck.
Oh, yeah.
So I am SOL as of right now, but otherwise I'm pretty good. How about you?
I'm doing pretty good.
I know. You have yawning Skeletor.
My son does have yawning Skeletor.
That's his action feature.
And that clip on the back stays on about as well as it did when we were kids too. I remember always having to mess with those clips. They were always popping off. Yeah, no, I've been looking around too. For those, we usually don't date stamp this too well, but it being the day it is. Today is Origins Eve as it's being discussed around Facebook because while there have been some leaks here and there in the online early releases, it is July 31st and the street date for these guys is August 1st. So theoretically tomorrow morning all the Walmarts should be overflowing with them and
they will have the power.
Yes. And I will say I left work a little bit early, and I did cruise down to my local Walmart. It's only like 5 minutes down the road. So I did cruise down there just to see, same thing, like, are they there? Are they, you know, I don't plan on, like, grabbing everything off the shelf, one of everything, you know, I might pick up one, maybe two for my son. But it's just one of those things, like, you just kind of want to be a part of it, you know, like, you just want to, you want to see them. You want to see Masters back in the toy aisle, you know. And my local Walmart, it's still as picked over as been. I mean, they haven't stocked a DC, they haven't stocked a wrestler, they haven't stocked anything in really like 4 weeks now down the boys aisle. Not only that, but they had pulled a bunch of stuff today. All the power players were thrown in a cart as I was going by. You could tell they were probably on break. Because, you know, they had cases at the end of the aisle. No Masters. I did look at the cases. Pulled that old trick. But they had cases at the end of the aisle. They had carts full of pulled off products with the clearance tags. And power players was a big thing. All those were pulled off in a cart. And some other stuff, you could tell they were just like shifting it down. So when I was there was a good, probably 6 foot gap of nothingness. Right in the center of the boys' toy aisle. So I think it's pretty likely that by tomorrow morning, these guys will be on the shelf at my local one.
Yeah, same here. I went in and there was basically the area where the WWE, Masters of the WWE figures are. There is a decent amount of just nothingness at this point. They did have the Faker Cena, which I was like, and they had that Rey Mysterio one that's winning everybody over.
Yep. That's
and finally got to see him, and I do like him, but again, for me, it's the whole, I'm not interested in starting an entirely new line and incorporating all this other stuff. I know it's fun for others. That's great. But for me, it's, I'm more invested in my son, and,
Right.
I'd rather him have a He-Man and Skeletor of his own that he can just play with and bash together and all that. And,
Right.
maybe get him one or two other figures to start off and go from there. But I think he'll want Orko. He asks about
Yeah.
Orko a lot. Um, but yeah, like I could see they are doing a switch of some sort going on. They had a whole bunch of toys in carts.
Yep.
I guess they were just pulling them off the shelves and putting them to the clearance aisles or whatever.
Yeah, they're clearance
So
or they're
there is a
shifting them down.
transition. Yeah, the
Yep.
transition has begun, but no luck. And it is what it is. I'm not going to pay scalper prices for these for my kid.
No, it's
I'll be happy to
ridiculous.
find them on the shelf.
Yeah.
So
And they'll be there. That's the thing. They'll
Yeah.
be there. It has already shown what they're doing is there are actually 3 cases. So the retailers can order a case that's He-Man, a case that's Skeletor, or a case of the actual wave. Because from what they're saying, He-Man and Skeletor are going to be available to retailers for a longer period, and that's why they have their own cases. So, number
Okay.
one, there will be more He-Man and Skeletor on the shelf. I can't remember. I think it's 6 to a case. So if they order,
Mhm.
so you got 6 He-Man, 6 Skeletor, and then it wouldn't work. It'd probably have to be 8 to a case. But anyways, you get what I'm saying. So it's not
Mhm.
2000X where it's like, well, we want more He-Man and Skeletor on the shelves, which you should, especially in the first wave. Like there should be more of the main 2.
Sure. Yeah.
But you don't have to worry, like, okay, because we got 3 He-Men and 3 Skeletors, now there's only 3 beyond the other characters. No, that's not how they're doing it this time. So, case ratios sound like they've actually been solved, which is an amazing feat in and of itself for Mattel.
Yeah.
And yeah, my section, that's right where it's at. Where the WWE wrestlers are, that's where the hole started opening up. So, I assume, and that just makes sense for them to sit right now, like, the wrestlers, the masters wrestlers, and then the masters. Like that just makes sense. So I think
Yeah.
that'd be a pretty good spread.
Yeah. I'm still completely like, okay, my He-Man is now right next to WWE. It's the weirdest feeling.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that it's a Mattel thing, but it's just like when I was a kid, that would have been separated. Like that aisle was like the aisle over from where the He-Man stuff was, because that was back when LJN was doing it in the 80s. So like that was the aisle I didn't go to as often. I went to the He-Man aisle, and usually they had like the Thundercats in there and GI Joe and all that stuff. And now it's like it's anarchy. It's all crazy. The toy aisle is just nuts now. So, but then again, hey, we have only a few toy aisles left in this world because it's only Target and Walmart nowadays.
Well, and I was gonna say for my Walmart, boys' toys is one aisle. Like that's it. There's
Same here.
Yeah, there's the Lego aisle. They've got a whole aisle to them. Then they have a boys' toys aisle. Then they've got like 3 that are Barbie slash all the different girl dolls and everything. And then they got one that's like the young kids, like the Paw Patrol and stuff like that. Like, no, the boys' toys locally here is the smallest section of it. Like everything is down that one aisle now. And I actually have one memory of seeing the original vintage Masters of the Universe in stores. Because I was born towards the end of the line. But I still remember going to one Toys R Us. It had to have been like 88, before my sister was born. So yeah, it had to have been 88. Like one of my earliest memories, I remember going there. And maybe it's just my remembering, but either way, it was a lot. But I remember there being a whole She-Ra aisle and a whole He-Man aisle in Toys R Us. Like it was just like you said at the end, it was just the whole. It was just one side, but still, like I remember that whole side just being She-Ra stuff, and I was just like, oh my god, look at all those figures,
Yeah.
Maybe that's just my memory. Maybe it wasn't full. I swear though, it had to have been at least half the aisle.
Well, that's the thing. Kids. I'm a little older than you, obviously, but it's like kids kids of our generation, or even a little older than me, kids at heart at this point, we had it so good. The
Oh
80s
yeah.
were so, like it was Christmas if my mom said, let's go to Toys R Us, because I flat out knew I was going to see some stuff that I've been waiting to get my eyes on, my hands on, and stuff. And I still remember one of the greatest days of like toy hauls for me was I went to Toys R Us, and it was when the Prince Adam wave came out for Masters. And so I ended up, like, my mom saw all the figures, and they were all on the front cap. For that one, because it was the newest wave, and they had, it was, for me being that age, I thought it went all the way up to the ceiling. That's how huge this cap was. And I still remember my mom got Prince Adam down for me, and then she found one or two more, and then she goes, how many are left that are on the back of the card? And I pointed out like a couple more, and she goes, just get them, so then that way we don't have to worry about coming back tomorrow. And I left with like at least 6 or 7 Masters figures that day. Nice. And it was glorious. It was Christmas, in whatever month it was they released them. But that's like I go down the aisle, like it's funny. It's tying into something I watched last night by accident. Scott Knightlick put out another one about the toy hunting, just going out and hunting for everything and scavenging and all that stuff. And his thoughts are, it's kind of like the primal thing of hunting and gathering. And it's like, no, that's not what it is in my mind. Not how it works for me. Mine is the initial excitement of seeing that and knowing this is something that made me happy. It was the dopamine thing, going on. So like when I was a kid going down the toy aisle, it wasn't so much that I was hunting for things. It was more the minute I saw them, I was so excited because I didn't know I was going to expect it there. Right. And then it was, oh God, now I have to have it. And then it's, how do I get my parents to let me have it? And it's like, now it's more, oh, I've seen that on Facebook. Oh, these guys are looking for this in this group. And I, just pointing them out. And it's like that feeling isn't there as much. It's there a little more because of Origins just going like, I want to see them on the shelves. But
no, I completely agree that is a big part. I think the hunter-gatherer thing, I think that's more the completists. Those guys that have to have everything, the gotta catch them all. That I think is more the hunter-gatherer thing. But I agree with you, and I wish there were more surprises nowadays. Like you see everything beforehand, and it's like you said, it was awesome going to the store, shuffling through the side, like who do they have? Because it could be anybody. In your mind, there could be a Lizard Man there could be a Lord Mask there could be something completely new, unthought of. Exactly. And I did the same. Whenever there was, for me, it was more like Spider-Man in the '90s and stuff, and you'd always like. Whenever you saw a new figure, then you'd flip the card back over because it's like, well, who's in this wave? And like, oh, they don't have this guy here, but now I know he's out there. And no, it is a neat feeling. I wish there was more of that nowadays. That's one of the things I actually thought was cool. Matty Collector, the first time they did their first chase figure, I want to say it was a Spirit of Hordak. I want to say he was the first one. But like it just popped up on the site one day for sale. They like kept it that under wraps to where it just popped up, and everyone's like, "Is this for real?" And
that's cool.
And it's cool to be surprised by that, And that's why a lot of times I try to avoid. I mean, I'm like that with movies and TV shows. I avoid spoilers to death now because I want to be surprised. I want to be surprised by the story, And then like even like I won't watch a lot of like reviews or something about a product that's coming out. I look at it enough to make sure it's like it's going to be something I want, but I try not to because I want to get my hands on it and just kind of explore it, So,
but and I ruin things for myself. Thing. Huh? It is. I ruin everything for myself, and this on a private level. I just sit there and I listen to this stuff, and I'll be like, "Have you heard about this?" And you're just like, "I'm not listening to this," or whatever. Right. And it's just it's my nature of I'm curious enough to be like, "Oh, I'm going to dive down a little rabbit hole," and then like a whole day later, I come up for air, and I'm like, "Why did I do that?" But I never ever learn my lesson. I'm the dumbest person like that. Well, so I'm a hypocrite, and I'm a rabbit hole person that just is not learning his lesson after 41 years of not learning my lesson. So,
Well, and
But
that's what I used to do. I used to like TV shows and like I'd always want like if someone saw it first or got it first or like I would always spoil it for myself. But then as the years went on, I'm like, well, but I'm not enjoying it as much this way, you know. So that's when I started backing off. There was a time when I was like every interview, every spoiler, you know, just gimme, gimme, gimme. Now I'll watch it first and then I'll go seek out all that behind the scenes stuff and everything, you know, and
yeah.
it's better that way to me. But
Well, your lists have made me a wiser man, so I might as well follow you in that. But yeah, I on top of that too, there's only so many hours in the day anymore for me, so
yeah.
that kind of helps me a little bit. But
Yep.
eh,
One thing real quick here that I did pick up. They did have this up today. And I couldn't resist. I actually really like these shirts. I got the He-Man and the Skeletor pops with the glow in the dark with the T-shirt. It's actually, I don't know. There's just something about those. They're simple designs, but they're also just kind of cool. Like it's just a fun little, and that is the
mhm.
design on the shirt there. So,
Well,
um,
it's of its time. Like that's the thing. Stuff like that, you could wear that on a shirt now, and people will just
yeah,
be like, "Hey, that's fun," you know. And it's the nostalgia angle, and like you wear Filmation He-Man shirts, and yeah, people will
yeah.
point at, "I remember that," you know.
Oh, every time. It did
Yeah.
take until I had them in hand though, because I initially let me see if I can get this right for the camera. I initially set them up like this to take a picture, and then I
Hmm.
realized that the boxes actually form a Grayskull battle scene there. If I can line them up right.
Nice.
So, so that
I
that
like that
was
kind of thinking.
yeah. Yeah, those would actually display. I'm actually thinking about keeping the box. Like that's actually a kind of cool little, just a little thing to
Hmm.
set on your shelf, even if you're not going to open them or whatever. Um,
That's how I'd do it. That'd be
and of
fun.
course, because and someone had been there before me, and this was almost empty, so I used it to carry them to the registers. I did swipe the shipper box for them, which has the cool red exploding brick background there.
Nice.
I was thinking this could be
Nice.
cool on the shelf, like maybe display some figures in, or you can turn around this way. Display some figures in front of.
Yeah.
I'll make sure it wasn't too tall. Yeah, see, even classics will sit on there nicely, like in front of that. That
Nice.
would be very cool. So, yep, I just picked up the whole thing and took it up to the checkout, and I'm like, nope, I'm taking this. That's pretty cool. I might grab another one if they're because they had the shirt, they had that giant size Skeletor, which was just on the shelf, the pop, um, and then they had the latest wave of the pops, the and actually those were pretty picked over. Um, they only had tongue lasher, two mosquitoes, and a web store. Like that's it. Now that whole shipper box, you know.
Hmm.
And I was just at Walmart like 2 days ago, so that bodes pretty well that people are actually picking them up, and even the shirts were the shirts are gone now that I bought mine. So
Hmm. Nice.
and that's what's gonna help. That's what's gonna help Mattel and everybody in Walmart seeing that this stuff is actually selling. That's what we need right now. So
Yeah.
the best thing we can ask for.
It's exactly, and there's been such a lull, even with classics in the mix. Classics was something that you basically, like you had to be informed in order to get on board with that one. Like it wasn't like, oh, hey, it's Walmart. You walk right in and there's toys all over the place for it. So,
Right.
it's like I feel like we're in an interesting time for the brand for that reason, because it really is like there's people that are actually really excited for these things and stuff right now. It's like great. I'm thrilled, and hopefully it means that we get more and more stuff. A little more classic, please. But anyway, yeah, more
I'm hoping.
stuff
I'm hoping.
on its way, so that I can get my hands on some new stuff, and instead of
Mhm.
just having the same old ones on my shelf right now. So that'd be pretty cool.
Exactly. So real quick here, I want to give a shout out, to Mr. Nate Barch. He posted up over the weekend. Was it Shawn?
I
You saw
saw
it
it
originally.
like a couple days ago, I want to
Okay.
say. So this
Time's
week,
wonky. Work's been, and we're recording weird, and just don't. But yeah, and he posts these up, and he just had a couple head designs for She-Ra for our audio listeners. Check out Nate Barch Designs Facebook page is where I saw it.
yeah.
And he said, just putting up here because I can and for reasons. So, but the top one there is kind of a hyper detailed, super anime She-Ra. Not really. I'm just giving Shawn grief. But it is a more detailed headdress and everything, and the bottom one is a little more simplistic and a bit more Filmation-y, less detailed. And I think all the fans can pretty much agree that the bottom one is the better option here. Right, Shawn? Right. Okay, moving on. I'm just kidding. I'll let you talk. There's no wrong answer. I'm just giving Shawn grief. There's no wrong answers here. But yes, I prefer the bottom one, a little simpler. That just She-Ra. But go
ahead. The beauty that is what Nate has created in just this is this. The top is how I want to view and have viewed Masters in my head since I was a kid. The bottom is what I've been given ever since I was a kid. And I'm not saying one is wrong or one is better or one is right or whatever. But like the top is more, I always like the idea, like 2000X gave us highly detailed versions of those figures and those characters. And that's the way that I would really like to see the line keep going, which is part of why the Origins thing isn't working for me. I'd love to see a little more robustness in the details, in, you know, however they can push those designs. The bottom is very much, here's the Nate version of the Filmation or the traditional She-Ra look that we've known for how long now? So, 30 plus years. And it's both of them are very beautiful. Yeah. The top one is definitely in the vein of that's what I'd like to see going forward for the line, as something a little more of a refresher of the old designs.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying, but for me, it goes too far, because I still think even the bottom one isn't just him doing Filmation. He's still got his tweaks on it, some added details. It's not as straight down. There's a couple more angles. Even the wings on the tiara, like, there's a little bit of layers to it, Mm-hmm. So, I mean, he did embellish a little bit, which is what I agree. I think these designs need to be taken and, embellished a bit more detail. But the top one, to me, is too. And Grant, I'm not an artist, so it's gonna probably sound weird, but it's too hard, too pokey. You got more hard angles and spikes and everything, and I just view She-Ra as a little softer, a little more. She's, we talked about He-Man a bit before, how he's like the quintessential good guy. It's like, well, She-Ra's the quintessential good girl. So. That's what's not doing it for me. It's like, it's a cool headdress design, but to me, it's a little too far past She-Ra for
me. The way that I look at it, I know Nate is, he's done, he also works with the Four Horsemen to do the Mythic Legions artwork as well. He's been working with the Masters brand for quite a while as well, so he's well known one way or the other. And something he brings across in other art that I've seen him post is he's into like the Viking mythology as well. So he likes to imbue some of that into the Masters characters, which to me is not a really bad way to do it, because it's almost, I want to say that there is this like almost like a cousin aspect to it. It's not quite Masters, but it's like, there's elements there in certain characters, and in her, the Valkyrie idea with the headdress and everything, and the way that I've seen him do this, as well as right here, there's definitely that thing, and that's kind of what I like about her is that you say about the softness, but to me, I also look at her as, but there's nothing wrong in her showing up looking ready for battle at the same time.
No.
And you know, that look to me has this, there's a fierceness to it, but when you see her face, you could see the softness as well, and the love, like Wonder Woman.
Sure.
There's always going to be that comparison, and like the way that they updated her in the movie, and there's certain things about her costume that are definitely more fierce looking than the typical way you saw her in Super Friends or the Linda Carter. But at the same time, it's the way that Gal Gadot, the expressions, her face,
Sure.
the way she looks at people, where it's like, if you're not on her list of people that she's going after, you feel like she's going to smile at me. She's going to make me feel like, you know, hello, and be, you know, it's like, that's kind of how I view this She-Ra on top. She'd look fierce going into battle because she's up against Hordak and the freaking Horde. But then at the end of the day, if she turned and saw Lukey, she'd probably be like, I don't like you, but I'll give you a smile because you're here. Because it's Lukey.
She loves Lukey. He lends a hand a lot.
Oh, yeah. Have you found me yet? Here I am. Anyway, no, I like his take on Masters in ways where it hasn't gone because of, you know, the traditional way everybody's viewed it, and he's one of those artists that really does. He'll push it a little further into what I really would love to see as well. And every time he does something, I'm like, man, if he and I were friends when we were growing up, we would have just like. I know he and I would have watched Filmation and gone, now how could we have done this but like this? You know, we would have gone like in a whole nother direction, and it would have turned into like a funeral pyre for Man-at-Arms and some kind of crazy Viking stuff, and we would have just been there going like, now why don't they do this on the show? And then it'd be like kids crying and all that stuff because Optimus Prime dies, kind of a deal.
Yeah, they're getting all the letters, so.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. And Lou Scheimer would hate us, I know. So.
But yeah, big shout out to Nate. Awesome work. And yeah, whichever one you guys prefer, there's no wrong answers here on Legends of Grayskull, even if you're wrong. So
that's why I got picked as a co-host. There isn't anybody who's all that bad, but all right, Shawn, we'll just take you along for the ride.
We'll take you along. So speaking of taking along for a ride, where are we riding to today, Shawn?
Oh, well, this is going to be a fun episode, folks, because this is the bipolar episode. We're gonna do some good classic.
We'll start with the review. So review
We'll
first.
Start with the review, the good classic.
Always start with the review first. We always end with remastering. So,
well, we're gonna have some fun when we get to remastering. But
we got to hook them first. You hook them with the review, and then they're like, well, I've sat through it this long, I'll stick around for the remastering.
Yeah, because if you actually say the name of the episode we're remastering this time around, there's a pretty good chance people are like, okay, I'll wait till next week. So we're going to...
That's an idea. I might try that this time, because usually when I put the episode description up, you know, since we started remastering, I go like, oh, we review such and such and we remaster such and such. Maybe I just start leaving that part off. Because what if that is a turn off to somebody? They're like, oh, they talk about the island? I'm not listening to that.
Give it a shot. See what happens this time around.
I might start doing that. Just a fun little thing where it's like, and we remaster their universe, and then I think I'm gonna try that this time. So, for all you listeners who read the description before, you still have no idea what we're about to remaster at the end of the episode. So, sorry for interrupting you, but that's a great idea. So, anyways, what are we reviewing today?
We are going to review The Dragon's Gift.
The Dragon's Gift.
That was very. The more you know.
I was going for no prep. I've been listening to a lot of Fake Doctors, Real Friends, and Donald Faison. He loves doing the Oprah with Shawn Scavarna.
Yeah. I didn't get a car, and Matt didn't get a car. And
no one's getting a car.
Oh lordy.
But yes, The Dragon's Gift. This is the 34th episode of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe by Filmation. It was directed by Lou Zuckor, written by the late great Larry DiTilio. The script was approved March 22nd of 1983. The final revision was July 13th of 1983, and it was first aired in the UK on March 26th, 1984. Big thanks to James E. Talk for all that information. And this was actually the first script that Filmation bought from Larry, and it led to him being hired as a staff writer. So he was doing freelance and shooting them some scripts. They bought this one, and it went over so well that they actually hired him on to the staff. So, and he deserved it. My God, he deserved it. This is a great episode that sticks with you from childhood, even.
Yeah, this one. I mean, we also had the mini comic adaptation as well,
right?
And this one, I think I could probably tell you with my eyes closed without having seen it for how long leading up to this episode, even because what I love about it is the morals in the story actually really hold up.
Oh,
and I love that I'll just say I love the unpreachiness of it. Yes. Because we're going to be dealing with a little preachiness later, but I like the unpreachiness of it, and we're introduced to one of the fan favorites today as well, which is Granamyr, and that was a Larry DiTilio creation from the way I understood it, at least.
Yeah, it was. He actually created him originally for the tabletop RPG Tunnels and Trolls. So Dungeons and Dragons type game system. And he wrote a module for that called The Isle of Darksmoke, which featured Granamyr the Dragon and a bunch of the ice trolls. So, basically, most of the elements of this he adapted from that earlier thing he'd written. And I'm glad he did. I mean, Granamyr went on probably make the most guest appearances, I would say, off the top of my head, of any of the Filmation created, secondary characters. And I think every episode of his was a winner. So,
yeah, he really did a good job of creating this character where there's always this sense of importance when he's on, and I love his personality, and I love, like we already dealt with the She-Ra episode where it was a younger Granamyr, and here we got here's the version of him that He-Man has to deal with, which I like as well. And yeah, he has this presence that there are some characters that have that, but Granamyr, I think, might be head and shoulders above all the others in the presence that he brings on this show.
Absolutely. Let's go ahead and switch on. So you guys at home know the drill. If you're watching on YouTube, it's going to be right up there for you to watch along. Those of you at home, either pop in your DVD, look it up on YouTube, however you need to watch it, or just listen along. So I have a feeling for most fans, this episode is, pretty ingrained into their mind. Go ahead and jump right in. We'll count down 3, 2, 1 and hit play. 3, 2, 1.
And the Pavlovian response begins.
Love it. Every time.
Every time. By the power of Grayskull.
Gets you every time.
Nobody does it better than John Irwin. Nobody. It never, ever offended me that he'd punch me every day.
Right?
Never made me sad.
And sorry for the silence, guys, but it's like every time I watch this intro, it just mesmerizes me like I'm a kid again. You're just like, I mean, it's amazing. That's a neat little thing there. They usually didn't leave the name of the episode on there while they did the writer and director. They're playing around with it a little bit.
Lady Amanda.
He's not even doing anything. Teela's just jealous.
Well, he's doing his best Captain Morgan there. So.
Yeah.
Yep. Every time. How do you make Cringer a happy boy? Fish.
It's so comical, but I love it. The tumbling into the throne room.
Oh.
I don't even care, Adam. Just shut up. It's actually a good disguise there, like.
Yeah. Yeah, I always liked how no one else except for Man at Arms is kind of like, what's up with this guy? There's something familiar about him, and it's like makes sense. He should be on guard like that. It works.
I think your captain of the guard would have been.
Well, she's impulsive. That's the thing. And I like that this little moment is what gives it away too. He sees the hilt of the skull or the bone sword. There you go.
I like how that wasn't a mask either, because you could easily see them just like ripping off a mask Scooby-Doo style, but they went for the illusion part.
Yeah.
And that awesome sword, that we finally got in classics in toy form. I like him having a unique sword.
Yeah, when I was a kid, I wanted that one, honestly.
Mm-hmm. It's perfect for him. It's simplistic, but it's still got the Skeletor vibe to it, with that nice chest harness symbol.
There we go. Oh yeah, that's right. He's gonna shoot the energy around the corner. I forgot about that.
Nope, I'm out of here. Sorry, Adam. I loved that as a kid. It cracked me up. Boing, bank shot.
I love it. I think this was the first episode where that happened, and as a kid, I think my jaw hit the floor pretty hard, just going, "It can do that!"
Right. I like how they get going. I mean, Skeletor and Teela got a nice little sword fight there, and Skeletor is owning this throne room right now.
The thing, Empire Strikes Back has one of my favorite moments in any Star Wars movie, and it's the moment when Lando's inviting Han, Chewie, and Leia to dinner, and when he opens the door to the room that they're going to eat in, Vader steps up, and Han just blasts him, and he starts opening fire on. It's like anytime that you take the villain and put him against someone that isn't typically his nemesis, is always cool to see, because then you can see what would this character do in this situation, or their courage or whatever. And I like how Man at Arms gets to fight Skeletor one-on-one in 2000X. And there's some really great moments in that sequence. But this one, it's like Teela's not even scared of him. She just grabs the sword and it's like, screw you, and goes for it. And some of it's out of anger, which is still great because she works really well in that way. But I like the fact that she's just like, I'm not going to take it from you either. She's
and even then, like after the fight's done, she's like, we got to go after him, and He-Man's like, no, we got to help Duncan. We got to help your father. So written very well. That's all she's just seeing blood. She just wants to avenge her father.
Yeah, and that's something that I love about this episode. In fact, is it's like it's Teela's mission to do this technically, and
Yeah.
He-Man is like her Jiminy Cricket through the whole thing, trying to like
Right.
rein her in, patience, Teela, and all that, like he just was saying. And
Yeah.
I like that, he might look like a barbarian, but this is definitely how Filmation handled him, where he had the patience and he had the wisdom to at least try to remember what's happening on a broader level in some of these episodes in Filmation.
No, it's very well written.
I mean, like, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I love it how they they kind of circumvent the quest idea because she sends them to a library. Like that's but even as a kid, this didn't slow it down. Like you'd think like, oh my god, they're sent to a library, like. But no, He-Man's like, the books, we can find the knowledge for ourselves. Here again, Filmation's great about inserting these little lessons in here without having to beat you over the head with it. It's just like, oh, we need to find out where this dragon lives? Let's study, you know? And, they got the candle burning down to pass the time, but they don't spend a lot of time in it, so you're still feeling boom, 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 you're engaged. But as a kid, you're like, it's that knowledge is important lesson, which pops up a lot. Very nicely done.
Yeah, I actually forgot about that part enough to go, wow, what's kind of cool is this episode is very much like, this is what we're doing on the show. It's like, here's going to the literature, the knowledge, this and that. And, that's Larry DiTillio. There you go.
It was. I mean, he was an avid. He loved the RPGs. He loved all that. He loved books. I mean, he wanted to, and he said that in interviews that he wanted to instill his a love of reading and everything into kids. So
he got with the good line for that, because like between the mini comics and the storybooks and everything, and comic books too and stuff. This is what made me want to read when I was a kid. Or the He-Man stories and everything.
Exactly. I did love that Wind Raider crash there. You really felt like there was a chance they could get seriously injured. I mean, it was very well done. Ice trolls, great design throughout this thing. I mean, these guys. This was actually Robbie Lamb storyboarded this, and he just gave it his all. Creepy little
the ice troll language sounds like me waking up in the morning.
Seeing that.
Freeze ray.
But it's more
way
blocky
more
there.
Here.
And it was more blocky. It looked more Mr. Freeze there. You see what I'm saying? The difference is, Yeah. As opposed to just my skin turns blue, Should have taken your ice armor, He-Man.
Yeah. I was actually thinking that, like, this is making me want to watch Trust again pretty hardcore right now, because it was such a joy on that episode to go, holy crap, he's actually in the ice armor. This is amazing.
These guys creep me out as kids. The yellow eyes and the armor-looking head, like... Classic. We gotta listen to this part, guys.
It is here.
It must be the dragon's fire pit.
effort it takes him to push that open. Awesome.
And all of his collection all around.
The scent of dragon is strong, He-Man. I guess we should announce ourselves. Granamyr!
That's an entrance.
Yes. How you end an act.
I am He-Man, Great Dragon, and I am here to ask your aid.
He-Man, I have heard your name whispered on the winds of legend.
In that case,
Silence. I did not say I respected the name, only that I had heard it. Dragons pay little attention to the lies of legend.
Granamyr, please, you've got to help us.
And who is this little girl who presumes to speak without my permission?
I am Tila, captain of the Royal Guard, and I will speak as I please.
We shall see how your tongue wags when my magic sends you to the realm of demons.
Oh my God, the insult! But he's totally dissing them, but it's in such an eloquent way. Like that dialogue is amazing.
Yeah. It's like I said after watching the She-Ra episode, I would have loved to have actually seen the story of what led from then to now, because you can tell somebody did him wrong.
Oh,
just
yes.
his, and I like that it's like you got stakes. You know, Man-at-Arms has to be cured and everything, but then on top of that, you have the stakes of, well, Granamyr's going to mess you up if you either, if you don't prove them wrong about humanity, or if you don't get something right. It's like I thought that was awesome about this episode. Even as a kid, it's like you have to watch where you step with this guy, or else you're completely screwed.
Well, and that's the thing here. Even like it turns out to be that whole thing about humanity, but there's no hint of that here. Like he is very much just like all humans are scum. I have not had anything to do with you guys, but you know what? You didn't flinch when I started attacking you, so I'll at least hear you out. And then it's like, he's very selfish, Granamyr is here. He's presented as it, Towards the end, you can say, well, it was all a test, but in this moment here, watching this for the first time as a kid, you're like, he's all about himself, and he wants nothing to do with them. Besides the fact that he sees a way to acquire something he wants, And even then, it's pompous.
And it's
It's vain. It's pompous.
It's
he wants to be the oldest living being on Eternia, and there's only one thing out there that's older than him, and he wants to kill it. I mean,
it was crazy. Like, I was talking to my daughter a little bit about us doing this episode, and one of the things I said was, like, Granamyr wants Skytree to get chopped down because he's looking at this as this is something older than him, and I'm like, but is it really right to destroy something that's a living thing just because of that idea? And my daughter's just looking at me. I'm like, yeah, your mind just got blown because that's on a He-Man episode, kid.
Right.
Like, I love this episode. Like I said, it's not preachy, but it really does make you sit there. And even in this episode, you're looking at it going, well, Man-at-Arms needs their help. But at the same time, He-Man having to make these decisions. And maybe, I like that. Like, I know where I'm jumping to the end a little bit, but I like how he addresses it at the end. It's the whole, he's got the courage to even say, I'm not doing this, and that, I loved how well that part played out.
Right. And the
but
thing
even
is,
here, go ahead.
I was going to say, the thing is, right now, as a kid, you're with He-Man. Like, let's go chop down this tree. It means nothing to you. You're sitting there going, it's a tree. We chop down trees all the time. We need them for, food and fuel and, the fires and make our houses. Like, you're seeing nothing wrong with this until they actually get here, and then Skytree starts talking, and then it turns the whole thing on his head. And even as a kid, I got it. Like I didn't, not as deeply as I do now, but you understood. Like, now wait a minute, how's this any different from him like killing a mother or a father or something? You know.
Yep.
And Tullamore and his dogs are great designs. This whole thing is great designs, great acting, everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the trees acting to try and protect Skytree.
Yeah, I like everything in that moment. It's like it's all converging into this moment. And then all of a sudden the tree just starts talking. It's like, what the heck is happening here? But I even like to have that typical He-Man, like throwing the sword from one hand to the other as he's about to chop it down. And
my father's life is at stake.
Yeah.
And if we don't bring you to Granamyr as a gift, he won't tell us how to reverse the spell that has turned my father to crystal.
Granamyr, is that old dragon still jealous of me?
Yes, and unless I bring you down for his fire pit, Man-at-Arms is doomed.
Man-at-Arms? He is your father?
Yes. You know of him?
I know the name. Through all of Eternia's long history, there has been a man-at-arms to uphold the cause of goodness. In a time now forgotten, one such man-at-arms saved this forest from the witches of fire. I am still in his debt.
Then you'll help us.
I have stood in this spot for countless ages. From my seeds, the forests were born. I am the soul of all that is green and good. Though I may fall, I will always exist wherever a tree spreads its branches to the sky. Take up your sword, man of Eternia, and save your friend.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
But you can't.
Like, seriously, that is heavy for a kid's show. The tree is willing to die to give up his life for a guy he's never met, you know?
Well, this episode does such a cool job of even the whole, like, Granamyr doing the whole, I've heard the name of He-Man whispered on legend, and now it's like they're even bringing in, well, a man-at-arms was the one who saved me when the fire witches were invading, and it's like, I love the idea that this is the one. Larry kind of blew the roof off the joint in this simple little episode that he wrote of saying there have been these protectors even before what we're getting to watch here and all that kind of stuff. And it's really cool to think, because that's something about this line I love, is the history that you think of. Well, what was this? And the ancient, the elders and that. It's really cool.
Absolutely.
Pick another gift or send us to the realm of demons. Now.
It would be my right to do so, wouldn't it?
It would.
Wisdom, compassion, and the honoring of a bargain. Who would have thought humankind would have improved so much in 1,000 years? I accept this gift, He-Man. In this book is the knowledge.
You can thank me best by letting me sleep. Never bother me again. Like, that's the perfect end to all this. Let's go hunting a dragon.
That was that last moment was very Police Squad.
Yeah.
It's got all, like Frank's there at his desk and all of them are just around that. They had that like stop the the freeze frame with them laughing with their heads back and all. It's very that. But
Adam protecting, his identity there, and it's just it's a masterpiece. I mean, with all that at the end of it, you're thinking, all right, this is it. They're getting sent to the realm of the realm of darkness or demons.
The realm of shadows or
realm
demons.
Of shadows.
I think he
Thank
said,
you.
yeah.
And you're like, how's He-Man gonna get out of this one? And then Granamyr just like, you know what, human, you have proved me wrong. There is still good in Eternia. There are good men, and that at the end there where you find out like actually this wasn't even really about Skytree. It was about Granamyr testing He-Man's humanity.
Mm-hmm.
And it's Star Trek: The Next Generation when Q puts the Enterprise on trial. And that's heavy for a show aimed at 8, 9, 10-year-olds. But even then, there's a little bit of Granamyr, don't you think, where like even if He-Man had killed Skytree, that he still would have been like Granamyr would have been happy with either outcome, I think.
Yeah.
He liked that he was proven that he finally found a human that was worthy of his time. But he also, I think, would have been good, like a consolation prize if He-Man had brought him Skytree and he got to burn him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a all-win situation for him in this case. And like I still remember being a kid watching that episode and thinking to myself, I think He-Man's going to the realm of demons, to the realm of shadows.
That's what I'm saying.
I really was scared for him to go back there, and then it was the craziest thing when he's like, oh, compassion and selflessness, and all of a sudden it's like, wait, he actually admires this guy now. Oh my God, it was such a great flipping the script moment for me when I was a kid. Like I'd say, I was 4 or 5, maybe 6 at the most when I saw this episode. Mm-hmm. So there's definitely a surprise to that, but I in general, that's what I like about these kind of stories. It's a morality tale, but it's done in a way where kids will just be like, their minds are blown just hearing about this. Like I said, my daughter, that look on her face when I told her what the point of this episode was, like she was like, they could do that, yeah. It's like some of these are really good for that reason.
No, yeah, I completely agree. It's like, and this is definitely one where the older you get, the more it means to you, the more you can, you understand the concept. But yeah, even as I remember this the entire time I've been watching He-Man. I remember this episode. So I've been watching it since I was 3, 4 years old, and it had always impacted me every time. Same thing. They were at the end there. I thought they were done. I'm like, they're gonna have to go to this realm and fight their way out of there. Like this guy is not, he's not reneging on the bargain. And you mentioned earlier about the preachiness. So, number one, you're watching this, it's action-packed all the way through. That 22 minutes that just went by was some of the quickest of my life because it boom, boom, boom. This story does not let up. You're sent to a library, and this story does not let up.
That's true.
Yeah, but the thing is, now looking back at it, okay, so we've got the whole knowledge is power thing. Use books, use the library. That'll help you. We got He-Man throughout there teaching Teela that, anger is not the way. You rushing into these rash, these knee-jerk reactions, like, you got to stop. She does that. She wants to go after Skeletor instead of helping Man-at-Arms. You've got the whole humanity aspect of He-Man, being weighed, that you should show compassion and kindness and intelligence, And then you've got the whole when is it okay to take a life? Is it okay to take Skytree's life because it will save Man-at-Arms? Is one life more valuable than another? All those lessons in there, and not once does it feel preachy. Not once does it feel like they're turning to the camera and going, you have to follow the 10 Commandments or something like that. You know what I mean? You just pick up on it. It's so well written. I cannot say enough about how well written this episode is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this one pretty much to me is like, if you didn't start with the original 4 mini comics, This is the essential reading of everything after that point. There's no way around it. Like this, like I said, it was adapted into mini comic form. It was right here on the Filmation episode, and it's one of those episodes that it really just sticks with you. And me being who I am, I still look back at this one and I'm like, I love the morality it's showing in action, basically, and I love that instead of being preachy and just using its words, it's by deeds showing this is what's going on. And I like that they had Tila at one of her most. She's just ready to do whatever it takes to get her dad back. And I love that they have her at her most extreme, and yet they have He-Man tempering, like I said, and the way he did that there, it's like in any other case they could have had it where when he says I'm not going to do this, they could have made her do something crazy. They didn't. I love that too. It's like she realized, hey, maybe this isn't the greatest solution either in that moment where he says, I can't take a life to save a life, and all that. And I mean, that's the whole point of the heroes. It's just that simple. It's, and it's like, if you're going to be the good guy, there are times in different franchises where you can address stuff like that. But in this one, it's like, no, it works. Right. So.
No, exactly. And, this should be required viewing for anybody that wants to work on the brand. Like, I don't care what you're doing. I don't care if you're making mini comics, you're making a new movie. I don't care. You're making T-shirts. You need to see Dragon's Gift before you're allowed to make a He-Man T-shirt. That's just my opinion.
Well,
it's one of those premiere episodes. It not only defines Filmation, but for me, it defines the brand and what the brand should be. A lot of the central aspects,
This is, again, I said it when we covered, I think it was Lessons.
Yeah.
It would have been amazing to see Larry had been able to head a show about He-Man at some point instead of just being a writer on the show, because his take on it is something that it's still relevant, and it's still like, I don't know anybody who would talk badly about any episode he's worked on. And I know the one episode that I was that the Comet, the Cosmic Comet one that we just did. I know he had a hand in that episode, but when it's just Larry being able to be himself and do his thing, like those episodes are airtight in how well the story's told, the overall mythology, and he imbues more mythology into the stuff he does because he's looking at it as just, I want to make this a fleshed out world, and that's what helps make people enjoy it more, because everything that I've seen that I could think of quickly off the top of my head, like he introduced the Ramstone into 2000X and stuff like that, that wasn't there that I remember from Filmation, at least. No. And then he brought Granamyr into the whole mythology as well, which, like I said, fan favorite character. I don't care who you are. Like, I'm not the biggest Filmation guy, but I give mad props to Granamyr because he's that character. So, like, based on those two things alone, and I'm trying to think of other ones where, right off the top of my head, I can't think of any more, but based on those two things, that was enough for me to go, he managed to create some world building that really impacted me as a fan, and that is awesome. So if he could have written the series Bible to a new series and incorporate some of those things and let it go, okay, what would you do with it? I that would have been like me having Christmas as an adult, just being able to hear what he would have done with the brand if he could have taken it in a direction of his own.
Yeah, if only what could have been.
Exactly. But we got this. We got some really good ones to have. His legacy is pretty well established in this. So yeah.
Exactly. So I'll just say it because I think it's no surprise because of all the touting I've been doing. 10 out of 10. Perfect episode. I honestly, even with this episode, like, usually I come up with something to change. I can't think of a single thing I would possibly change about this. The pacing, the flow, the action, the story, the lessons, everything is just perfect. 10 out of 10.
I give it a 1, but then you put a 0 behind that. I gotta give you some crap sometime. We can't agree on every episode.
And another 5.
I give it a 5 and another 5, or I'll give it a 4 and a couple of 3s behind it. You know, yeah. Like there are episodes of Filmation that transcends what people like, and I don't want to be the Filmation hater. I'm not, but you know, like Filmation has a certain, like this is a stellar episode, and it's this is the good stuff, and you know, thanks to the late great Larry DiTillio for being able to work in the brand and being able to introduce the elements he did into this, and like I said, to what could have been if we could have handed him the keys to the car, you know, and just seen what he would have done with it. But the moral of this is effective even to today. When it was a kid, it shook me how impressive that moral was. And Granamyr. So there you go.
Granamyr. That's all you need.
Pretty much. It helps.
Yeah, so. And I think everybody can agree on that, no matter, like you said, even the ones who don't like Filmation necessarily, they still love Granamyr. Like, he's just a character that has transcended everything, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So,
I will say, me being the 2000X guy a little bit more, I do think 2000X really needed a Granamyr character in the episodes they did, because I could feel the lacking of that sort of important character. And yeah, I do feel like somewhere in season 1 there should have been an episode similar to this, preferably written by Larry DiTillio, if that could have been done as well. But they missed the boat on that one, unfortunately. So, and I think there was probably copyright reasons they couldn't do it, because Filmation had the copyright to the character. Well, I'm guessing.
But they'd worked out the Filmation. They had worked out a Filmation deal, because we got Evil Seed and we got Count Marzo. And that's the thing. They had a Filmation Filmation deal, but they never really came out and said exactly what the deal was. We just knew that they could use some stuff. I think the most of the speculation has been the no talking animals. We believe is what killed it.
That makes sense.
Mike Young Productions wanted to try and keep the show as serious as possible, so they took away Cringer's voice, and I believe they were hesitant to do any of that. Like they had their, like, Filmation had both. They had the dragons that were just the mindless beasts, and then they had the smart dragons, the intelligent ones like Granamyr and others. And Mike Young didn't seem to want to do that. Either you were a sentient being or you were an animal. And we, just as fans, have speculated that that's kind of the divide.
That makes sense.
We never got a Granamyr.
Yeah, that makes sense, but I'm not going to lie. That makes me sad, because like I know you and I have had our thing, and there's been fans out there, about talking Cringer, talking Battlecat. And to be honest, it was kind of fun to see a non-talking version in that series, for me at least, because hey, you're making him look a little more primal in that way, although he gets knocked out every episode, so whatever. He does. But it's like, if any action's going on, he just gets knocked out, and that's the end of it. And what's his name, Chris Tucker's there and doing his Friday, you got knocked out, and all that. But yeah, Granamyr, I think, would have been one where I would have completely excused the having the animals talking for that episode, because that was a special case in point.
Oh, no, I completely agree. They should have gone off Eternia too, but once again, what could have been? Yes,
that's true. We're just going to get sadder and sadder if we keep doing this. So let's move on.
We'll do that on our 2000X episode. So, so next, it's time for our newest segment.
Remastering their universe.
All right, it's time for remastering their universe. So, what are we talking? What are we going to remaster today, Shawn?
Well, this one, there's a history behind why we chose this one, because I thought it was one thing and you reminded me it was another. But
I'm wondering if you're going to pull out the correct title right now. Because all week long
probably
you've kind of slipped back and
I
forth.
keep saying both one way or the other.
I know you do.
This just shows how much I don't like this episode. I don't even remember the title properly. Let me see. If I'm wrong here, then feel free.
Oh, I will.
It's not my fault, right?
Hey,
right?
He got it right.
All right.
All week long when
I kept saying I didn't do it.
I didn't do it. That's what Shawn calls this episode. He's like, we should do I don't want to watch it. This episode. Oh, yeah. So this one was one that when I've told Matt this a few times, but I get to tell our listeners now. When the box sets came out, the BCI ones, I had a viewing party at my apartment. It was me, my roommate, and a buddy of mine, and we just sat there just binging He-Man for an evening. And this episode came up, and a buddy of mine, we couldn't stop laughing because this episode we couldn't get how bad this thing got. Yes. And on top of that, to this day, I hear my buddy going, "This is Zigon! We shall worship him!" and all this stuff. And oh god, it brings back good memories of us watching it. But when I watch this, it makes me sad because I still can't believe this is an episode that happened in the Filmation series. Right.
So.
Yeah, this is the 37th episode. So just a few episodes away from Dragon's Gift.
I was just going to say, that's impressive.
It was written by Ron and Sam Schultz, and it was directed by Ed Friedman. The episode directly before this one was The Search, and then right after this one is Valley of Power. So it's sandwiched right in between two of the better episodes.
This is the island of Filmation, I think.
This is the
for that
island
reason.
of
It's like there's pretty decent episodes on either side, but this is just boom, right in the talk about the abyss.
They
I couldn't help it. It just slipped out.
This is the one. Quick recap for those of you who don't remember the episode. So you've got Orko playing with this jungle villager named Pody, a young girl, and they end up breaking some stuff in Man-at-Arms' lab by throwing a ball through the window. And rather than fess up to what they did and take their punishment, Pody decides to run off instead. And she's the daughter of the tribe's leader. So she runs off. And this evil villain, Rago. Yeah. He is luckily trying to find her at that time because she's the only one who can get the more stones, the more fire stones.
More fire. Yeah.
I can't talk, guys. I'm sorry. And he needs those to take over the village. So luckily, he kidnaps her in the Vine Jungle. Goes and collects the more fire stones and tries to take out the tribal leader. And we follow He-Man, Man-at-Arms, Teela, and they later join up with her father as they trek very, very slowly through the jungle to rescue her.
And don't forget Zigon.
We have Zigon.
We have Zigon.
Zigon is this robotic rhinoceros type vehicle. I don't know if I can get.
And he wants to get the more fire stones in order to activate Zigon to full power, but still Zigon before this, even before he has the more fire stones, still has enough power that it's doing some damage. So it makes you just kind of go, well, what's full power going to be like on this thing? Because it seems like it works just fine as is.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it works just fine, but it works.
It works, yeah.
Yeah, it's this weird robotic three-legged elephant or rhino with attack track style treads. Man,
Yeah.
this is throwing the whole episode off the rails here, Shawn. Why'd you pick this? Um,
I just complained quite a lot, and you just heard me. That's basically what happened.
so, this episode is bad on so many levels. But let's start with Zegon. That's my number one thing. Let's start with Zegon. This thing looks ridiculous, and it's not imposing. It's not intimidating. It's this weird rhino-shaped body with these long legs with treads on them. It doesn't even look like it should be able to make it through the jungle easily. Like, it's not. They threw the treads on there, I think, as an attempt to try and be like an attack track, like all-terrain vehicle. But it doesn't come across like that. And then it's got a jump and stuff. Like, it jumps by, like, just, like, Hanna-Barbering, like, boing. Like, it jumps over a chasm. So, number one, Zegon needs better design. Go full, it was described as a three-legged, rhino-like robot in the script. Okay, number one, drop the three-legged. Because three-legged in anything is not a good all-terrain vehicle. I say go full-on robotic rhino. Like a big Transformers type of, menacing rhinoceros, vehicle. That's my number one
I could buy that. I could buy that. I think my biggest issue with that in general was when you first see him, Rhaego says, "This is Zegon. We shall worship him." Yep. It made it sound like it was supposed to be this like deity of some sort. Like it should have been like a statue made to worship this deity called Zegon. Yep. So when you see what it is, it's like, this looks like something you threw together out of Man-at-Arms spare parts from the palace. I kind of wanted it to be something along the lines of, it maybe could be like a statue that ends up, he gets the Morfire stones. Okay, all right, good. We're on the.
Keep going.
He needed the Morfire stones to bring it to life. So then, through the power of Zegon, which I keep wanting to say Egon because of Ghostbusters, because we got a Z at that's it. But he would use Zegon in order to control the jungle then, and that would be his. And I guess it would have been, hey, I had the Morfire stones, and therefore you answer to me. I'm worshiping you. Blah 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 blah. It's like the whole premise of it's just this giant attack track with a rhino face and three treads. Like it just, like you're saying, I don't like the design of it. I think it's definitely one of the weakest designs of anything, especially of what it's supposed to be that Filmation created. And the whole "we shall worship him" line always confused the hell out of me as well.
And that's what I had here too. I had along the same lines. I said make Rhaego actually find Zegon and have it be some sort of like ancient tech, even if you want to keep it robotic, which again with remastering we try and keep within the parameters that are here. So keep it robotic, but have it be this. I mean, it doesn't have to be ancient, really. Just have it be this abandoned warship that he found. Like, it was just a vehicle. He found it after he was kicked out of the tribe, and he got a bunch of other outcasts together. He's like, look at what I found. Let's worship it. It'll bring us to victory, And then it needs a little power boost, so then he's like, we need to track down the Morfire stones, to get him up to full power. And that way we can take over the village. Like, that works for me, know. Another thing I had. Let's talk about Rhaego for a minute here, all right?
Let's do it.
So, for being kind of a ridiculous villain and not much happening in the episode, he has a very extensive backstory to him. Do you remember what it is? It's
I remember, like, I remember the chief was the one to tell the backstory.
Yes.
and that I don't remember as well, but I know in from the perspective of Pody, she says, you were supposed to keep vines out of the drinking water, and that was a very important job with our tribe.
Which
and
it was.
and I love that his reply back was, it was a job for a girl. And it's like, wow, he's all about the cred. He's all about having the respect and all this kind of stuff. But the backstory, I don't remember it exactly.
For those who don't remember exactly, so Rhaego was in charge of the village's water supply. He was the water department basically, and he was in charge of keeping it clean and drinkable and everything. But he didn't do his job, so he got fired from being water manager, and then he turned to a life of crime and was a thief, but then he was bad at being a thief, so then he got caught, and then he got sent to the prison mines, and he was too lazy at the prison mines, and he didn't do his work, and so he ended up breaking out, and now he's trying to find the more fire stones to power Zegon to take over the village. You know what? He's got this whole story here, but it's very much like, do we need that? Like,
no, we don't. That's why I don't even remember it, because it was so crazy that I'm like,
Because it's a setup. The whole thing with this episode is a setup about taking responsibility for yourself. That's, in case you didn't catch it in the title, or if you watched the episode, I don't know how you couldn't have caught it. But the whole thing is about taking responsibility. So they were trying to show Rhaego as like the extremely unresponsible guy, which to me it's like, I don't know. I just like simplify it. Like, if you wanted to make him in charge of the village's water and he was lazy and didn't do a good job, that's fine. Like, Cobra Commander was a used car salesman. So, okay, he's an water department worker. Like, that's cool, but I don't know. There's just something about it during the episode when, like, he was this, and then he was that, and then he was that, and then he did this, and then he went over there, and then his mother did this, and we had them for dinner every Sunday, and it's like, dude, simplify.
Yeah.
Simplify. Or leave it out entirely, but I think you need to kind of make Rhaego the irresponsible one. Like, you got to go with the lesson here. It is a good lesson, but this episode beats you over the head with it.
Yeah, I actually clocked it last night out of curiosity, and with you take out the actual intro, so say 30 seconds of the episode you're taking away.
Sure.
Within the first 2.5 minutes of this episode, you got to the point of what the whole moral is, and throughout the episode, you're constantly getting hit over the head with the fact that it's about taking responsibility. And everything Pody does is making you just cringe and get annoyed because she's just running away from everything.
Yep.
So, yeah. When it comes to Rhaego, like, simplifying him would be nicer. And I feel like he's such a caricature of a villain anyway. Like, the way he's played, half the stuff he even says in the episode isn't even... Like, nothing about him is scary. Nothing about him is imposing. He's using Zegon to be that, and it's just him. And I just feel like he's just such a pointless character. And, like, okay, if you want to bring across the whole responsibility thing and all that stuff, they could have gone 2000X with this idea instead of how they did it on 2000X. And the chief could have just been his brother. And so he looks at the chief as, well, you're the one that's all responsible. You're in charge of everything, da-da-da-da-da. And you made me in charge of the water supply.
Yeah.
And it's that whole, I'm not going to take responsibility because why should I, and all that kind of crap. Yeah. It's like, there you go. Simple. He gave him this job, and he's like, this is going to be how, if you do this, then we'll graduate you to this, and then you go to this, and you get more responsibility. And he just keeps on shirking it. And that's the end.
And that's it. And that's actually kind of why the character almost worked for me. Like, his dialogue's bad, don't get me wrong. He needs, like, all the dialogue needs a complete rewrite throughout. I'm sorry, guys, but it does. This was just not a well-written episode. But I actually kind of like the fact that he was a pointless villain. Because he is that irresponsible guy. He's the guy, the second it gets tough, he's like, I'm done, Like he probably took that water manager job gladly because the pay was probably like nice,
Buku.
good level of power. I mean, think about it. Your utilities, especially in a village, that's a pretty big step. Like food, water, shelter. Those are the big three.
Yeah.
You live in a jungle, the vine jungle at that. It's even a regular jungle where it's like, we got to watch out for animals. This is like, that dandelion over there could eat me,
Yeah.
So I think he the fact that he liked the power, he liked the prestige, but he didn't actually want to do the job. Like, that's who he is as a villain. And I could get behind that if written properly. Like, this guy who just, even at the end here, like, once Zegon's taken out, he's like, all right, I'm done. It's like, that's, it could work is what I'm saying. It could work.
It could, but I think the problem with a villain like that in particular is he gives up so easily that it almost makes it pointless to have like He-Man caliber of a hero going up against him in a sense. It's like the whole thing, like when I was thinking of, because we also talked, the other thing about this episode is it's padded.
Oh,
and it is padded to the point
my
where I think
God.
the story probably would have taken only half the episode to tell. Right. But we have tons, like you were saying privately, there's panning shots. I mean, I
love panning shots. Don't get me wrong. I love panning shots.
Yeah, but when you do it, like, okay, the first shot you get is it's going through the stars in space. And then you see Eternia, and you're zooming in, and then you're going into the palace, and then you're zooming in, and then you're going into a specific area of the palace, and you're zooming in. And then on top of that, like you were saying, the jungle. Well, here we go. We have the same stock image of Teela doing the whole using her bow to get through the underbrush and all that stuff, and He-Man's doing his chopping this or that.
There's a 2-minute bit where they're clearing the path to go through the forest. Man-Arms had a path. I don't know if you caught that, but the one that Man-Arms goes up against, like there's a vine directly in front of him, and there's nothing over here. He could have easily sidestepped, but he was like, "Well, He-Man and Teela are doing it, so."
Well, why don't I have an action scene and all that stuff? And even like at the end, it's basically everybody has a villain that they're fighting against in this, and it's like all of these guys. The worst villain in the entire episode is the dude that fights Man-at-Arms because he's got more fight in him than Rhaego has.
He did. That was actually a good fight, but it was such.
I thought so too.
It's literally at the end there, guys. If you haven't watched the episode in a while. He-Man is like, he's got Zegon, which is the Rhino vehicle. He's literally tipping it upside down and shaking it to get the bad guys to drop out.
Yeah.
And as they drop out, like the first one drops out and he's just a henchman and he goes running off. And then Man-Arms follows him and they get into a fight. And then Man-Arms defeats him. And then it puts back and He-Man's still shaking the thing. And the second villain falls out. And then that villain runs off. And then Teela goes and gets him. Yeah. And she... Did the Chief do it too? I want to say even the Chief had one, didn't he?
I don't know. I don't think the Chief did, but then...
Two? It was 2 or 3 henchmen, and then Rhaego, and then He-Man got him. But it's like it wasn't even happening at the same time where like they all dump out and you're cutting back and forth. It was literally like, let's go follow Man-Arms. Let's go follow Teela. Let's go follow He-Man. Like 3 separate battles at the end here that weren't even that exciting. No. Except for the Man-Arms one was pretty good. I like that one.
The Man-at-Arms one, I think, is actually one of the best parts of this episode, and that's saying something because you'd think like He-Man should have that moment, and instead it's Man-at-Arms, and it's like, he has it over this chasm, and it's this really narrow walkway, and the two of them are like duking it out across this walkway. And I actually really thought that was cool because it's got moments where it's like, okay, he could tumble off and probably like fall forever or whatever. And there's some nice drama to how they choreograph that. But everything else, it's just like, it's almost like this is a gimme. Because like when they fall out of Zegon, and it's just like, okay, run that way. We'll have Teela get that way. It's almost like, potluck,
The same thing with the chasm. They have to cross, or Zegon takes out the bridge, and they have to cross this like canyon. Oh, and they literally show like they shoot a line across. He-Man goes across, and sets up a zip line basically. But they
Zip
actually show
line,
them
yes.
like setting it up. Like they show
Yeah.
them like tie the rope here. I'll jump over. I tie it over here. I get the hook out. I put the hook on. I send it back. Tila gets on the zip line. She goes. She sends it back. Man-Arms gets on the zip line. He goes. He sends it back.
Yep.
It's like, what are we doing here, guys?
In the span of that whole sequence, that would have been when I turned off the TV and went back and played with my toys, so I didn't have to be dealing with this stuff anymore. Because, yeah, this one.
Seriously. I will say,
like-
real quick, just sorry, I just happened to glance at the Filmation guide, and it says for deleted scenes, in
Yeah,
the
more
script,
ziplining.
in the script, Chief Merlo pursues an escaping guard too. So in the script, the chief did pursue a guard at the end there, but they did cut that. That's confirmation. So it was just the 2 guards in Rago. But there were supposed to be 3 guards in Rago, and Chief would have had his fight too.
That would have turned it into the only other 2-parter besides House of Cody. That they would have gone that way. Because dear God, like, I mean, I think the padding needs to go.
Yes, I said
I
that
also
too.
think, but
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
also think the initial thing with the initial beginning of the episode needs to go.
Yes.
Because that's when they already hit you over the head with the moral, and throughout the episode, you're just going to keep hitting your head against the wall with this thing.
Lesson at the beginning. Question mark.
Literally, like I said, 2.5 minutes into the episode, they break his molecular something. I forget what the term of it is, but
Right.
they have a ball go through the window into his lab, and it's the typical Orko
Which is
setup. So
fine.
it's like I don't even need. Well, for me, I don't need I don't need him to have an accomplice. I mean, they have the whole. Oh well, why don't we just tell him, and maybe it won't be as bad. And then she just does the no, and she runs off, and I'm like, I don't like her character based on that already. So it's hard for me to even like her going into the rest of this episode, even though, yeah, she's a kid. She needs to go back home. I get it, instead of being kidnapped. But
And I think I don't mind the setup. The breaking the thing and then running off, that's fine to me, but don't preach. Like, there's literally, well, number one, Orko should have ran off with her. So we shouldn't have had, to me, we shouldn't have had the Orko and Man-at-Arms and Adam scene. It should have been Orko and Pody like, shit, let's get out of here. Because we all did that with kids when we broke something, and especially when there was a group of us. It's like, scatter, you know?
Yeah.
And so it should have been both them taken off. And literally, there's a scene with Man-at-Arms and Adam where they literally say the moral to each other.
Yeah.
Adam's like, yeah, you should have just fessed up. And Man-at-Arms is like, Adam, how many times when you were a kid did you mess up? And he's like, a lot. And Man-at-Arms goes, how many? And wasn't your fear of punishment always worse than the actual punishment? And Adam's like, oh yeah, you know, like it's not even just having the lesson at the beginning. It's they literally they might as well just turn to a camera like we are now and gone, kids, tell your parents what you did. You know, I mean, it
was basically
that's what needs to go.
This one had the beginning moral instead of the ending moral, because the ending moral basically covers everything that you saw in the first 2 minutes of the episode. So yeah, like I don't know. I kind of wish that was gone, and I wish they could have addressed it a different way. But if we're within the confines, it makes sense. But yeah. I don't know. There's still this. I think Orko should have went with her.
Yes.
Because then it would have had them on high alert. Now, okay, you know, number one, she's visiting us, and now he's gone with her. What the heck, you know? And then they're on high alert trying to go after her and all that. And
it adds kind of the missing child thing into it too. Like, where did they go? Like, you don't even have to address the broken thing. You loop back to that at the end, you know. But now you can play with the taking responsibility and not going anywhere without telling a parent, and you know, the fear of losing a child. Like, there's some better stories in there if you go that way.
Definitely, and you know, like that would have been more the direction. I think it would have been a lot more interesting to watch. I wouldn't say more fun, because when you're dealing with those kind of themes, it's not exactly fun to watch, but it's like, that's the kind of stuff where it's like, oh crap, these kids are in over their heads. And on top of that, then you have Rhaego kidnapping both of them then. And like, I mean, he does that anyway, technically in the episode, but it's the whole, him having these kids. And then on top of that, her being able to unlock she can hold the more Firestone. So it's her being a conduit to having him have a bigger role of the villain and all that stuff. It's like, it is a convoluted as heck story in that way, because that's like something that it's out of left field. Like typically when they introduce some of these characters that we don't know, they will actually, well, this is Prince Adam's cousin, and she's from here, and there's this about, and then at least going into the rest of the story, you're like, oh, this is how this character is supposed to come into play. This whole thing with the more Firestone thing hits like middle of the episode, I want to say, and it's just out of left field. Like, oh, well, here's this whole history going on, and I'm like, I'd rather have been a little more knowledgeable about what that's all about, because like I said, when the more Firestones are activated with Zegon, I'm like, it didn't really do much more than what Zegon was doing already. So what the heck, in my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, I agree, and I actually had it here where instead of opening at the palace, to me it should have opened with Rhaego finally finding Zegon and activating him.
That would have been good.
And that way, so you're still thrown in unknown, but if you open up a scene in like this ancient temple, say, deep in the vine jungle, and it's Rhaego and these mysterious goons, and they're like breaking through these ancient seals or whatever, and finding Zegon, and okay guys, hope he still works, and it powers up and everything, and then have Rhaego explain his plan, which gives you the exposition that you're looking for, which I felt was needed too. Let's make him the Chief's brother. I like that. My brother, he'll rue the day he kicked me out of the tribe. I'm gonna get Zegon, and I'm gonna take over the village and let his lackeys be dumb. Let them be dumb. Let them be like, well, but boss, the chief, he's very powerful. He's got his scepter and everything. How are we going to take him down? And, we're going to find the more Firestones, these ancient stones that will grant unlimited power to Zegon. We will worship him,
Yeah, there you go.
And I think that's what's missing there. I think you're missing that introduction, because you want that right off the bat. You want to know where we're going, who we're seeing. A lot of these episodes introduce new characters and everything, and but they usually explained them, and this one just kind of went into it.
Well, I'll do one better for you on that, because I like that. I didn't even think of that concept, but I like that idea. And then on top of that, the next scene should have been, maybe they were doing some sort of a ritual in the village.
Yep.
And they had, like, because it's Pody, and her and Orko obviously have this friendship that we see in the beginning. Well, then Pody has Orko, Prince Adam, and Man-at-Arms, and maybe Teela, and they're representing the royal family and stuff like that. And they're there to witness this thing of, maybe she's like come of age with the whole Morfire thing, I was thinking. And then it's like, here's who is the conduit that he needs to do what he wants to do. And it's shown, not told.
Exactly.
And that's the main thing too, is, you have this ritual, and it's like, and you could have Man-at-Arms and Adam talking to the Chief Merlot, and, well, Cody's come of age, and now we have to anoint her as she will be the keeper of the Morfire stones. And if it wasn't for these stones, our village would be, we would not be as bountiful as we are, or whatever it is, and have, the food and the water that we need, and da-da-da-da-da. And it's that whole idea, and it's got that Indiana Jones thing then too. It's the whole, Temple of Doom. You got to get these stones back, so this village isn't in danger, on top of the fact this brother's just being a dick, basically. And the Zegon thing, it's like, all right, it kind of, in that way, it gives it a little bit of a more, I don't want to say a race against time, but it does give it more stakes because
Yeah.
this episode doesn't have a huge amount of those for it being a kidnapping episode. I love how every time I point something out, you just point at your paper because we do understand what makes sense here.
No stakes. There are no stakes in this episode. Kind of the missing kids, but even then, like, not really. Like, it never feels like it. So yeah, no, I like that. So you open up with Rhaego and Zegon, then you go to, you know, them doing a ceremony or whatever at the village, and then go to where Orko and Pody are messing around and end up breaking something, because I think that is an integral part, you know.
Yeah, I like
to
the idea
story
that
as it is. And then
just whatever's broken should be something. Maybe it should be something that is ancient, or it meant something to the tribe instead of it being something Man at Arms.
All in the Vine Jungle. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. There's no.
Okay.
It's like the one episode you were like, we're going to too many places. We don't need to start in the royal palace. Let's just keep it with this village. Keep it with this tribe.
Right. So then they scatter. They take off. I have a bunch of kids there. Because, you know, kids get stupider the more that are there. Like, you're pretty smart. You and your buddy are pretty smart. But like your buddy, that girl you're trying to impress, those two kids from down the street, that older kid that, you know, you want to look cool in front of. Once all those guys are together, you do some stupid stuff. Let's be honest here. So let's say there's a whole group of kids, and that actually gives you the direction to go in. Like, there's a whole group of kids, something happens, and they all scatter. And so then you've got a point where once they're looking for her, they find some of the other kids, and they're like, well, what happened? And let the other kids be like, well, we broke this, and they took off into the jungle. And then the adults, He-Man and team, go, we got to go find them because, you know, Rhaego's in the area, you know. So that leads you into that. And then once you're in the Vine Jungle, make this place menacing. We've seen this Vine Jungle menacing plenty of times, and here it's all just kind of tickling vines, you know.
Well, in the one part, He-Man just walks right up to one of the Venus flytrap plants, the catcher plant they call it. He just walks right up to it and it eats him. It's like, well, that's why it ate you. Yeah. Like, seriously, he just walked right up to the damn thing. It's not like you were even like worrying about.
And even then, he just kind of like, he's like, you know, and he does his typical bust out, and it's like, come on.
And when it explodes, it's like confetti, so that automatically just feels weird to me too. So I didn't appreciate that.
I mean, it's like make it so that it's actually, you know, if you want to do that, you know, make it actually like threatening to swallow him, like have him stuck in its jaws, and like you have teeth, and I don't know, like they just give some stakes there, you know. I'm fine with a chase through the Vine Jungle, but don't drag it out that much. I don't want to see him zip lining. I don't want to see every character in the show do a separate zip line with a special twirl, you know. This isn't a diving contest, you know what I mean?
And also swinging on vines a lot in this episode too. That's like a huge thing at the end with He-Man getting a Rhaego and all that, and it's like everybody swings on vines. Okay.
Bet you don't know about what was that, like tangle vines or something like that he just like kind of like
he just drops on him, and suddenly that's the end of it. Like, he just gave up like everything else. There you go.
But honestly, I think even with the, you know, even with the scenes we've added here, I think we're running pretty good here. So then you have a journey through the Vine Jungle to catch up with them at the temple. Cut to a couple scene, you know. Yeah, go ahead.
One other idea: the Vine Jungle sequence should be at night. I think the whole thing should take place at night because that's the whole. Holy crap! These kids are gone, and it's sunset, and now we're in the Vine Jungle, and we got to get out of the. You know, that whole thing. It's like it'll heighten it. In that
so
way.
we're at the day. It's daytime when Rhaego finds Zegon. It's daytime for the ceremony.
The ceremony.
And it's like dusk when they're playing their game. Everything's winding down, and then as we're heading into the Vine Jungle, it turns to night. Really,
and it would be like
absolutely
like okay, they're about to go back to the palace, like they're about to leave, and then all of a sudden they're looking around. Where's Orko?
Right.
Oh wait, where's Pody?
Where's
And it's
Pody?
like you mount the whole thing of, oh, where are these people?
Where's Orko?
They're gone.
Where's Pody?
Where are the kids?
They were playing with the kids. Where'd the kids
Yeah.
go? Have a guard
Yeah.
run up. Sir, Rhaego's been spotted on the borders of our territory. And it's like boom, boom, boom. Because you can see
mount the
and
tension.
Have Chief Merlo as a dad, like, I mean, I don't know about you, but there have been quick moments as a parent where you think your kid's missing, and I remember my youngest daughter. We were in the apartment. She was just starting to crawl around, right? Like she wasn't even walking yet, and we're in the apartment. Door's locked. Like she's got to be in the apartment somewhere. I know that as a person. I know that now. Logically, I knew that then. I went to use the bathroom or something, left her in the living room for just a moment, came back, and she was just gone. I go, Aubrey, I'm calling for her, where are you? Not that she'll answer me, but usually they'll come towards the sound of your voice. Nothing. No movement anywhere in the living room. Look in the kitchen. Look in the bedroom. Like, you can logically tell me that she's somewhere in the house, and I know she has to be, but in my mind's already going, she got out of the house. She's in the street. Someone took her. Like, that just, your mind goes like that, as a parent. And to see that with Chief Merlo in that moment, that could be really, really good. And I think Filmation could pull that off.
Definitely. And I mean, like, that to me would have been the moment where, like, you have him freaking out because she's not there, and you have Man-at-Arms try, let's think, let's look back at this, and then all of a sudden, like you said, the guard or the one of the tribe's people, we've just confirmed that Rhaego's in the Vine Jungle and da 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 da, and then that would be like the chief turning to them and being like, help me, please, and Adam, like, he steps back, and it's by the power of grace, and it's like, like anytime He-Man steps up in that moment, especially, and just the whole, him taking charge as this whole nighttime sequence happens with them trying to get her back, that would have been awesome.
I got one for you. Okay, so all that, Adam changes into He-Man, and he appears as He-Man for the chief. He's like, everyone's a He-Man, and don't worry, Chief. We'll go find Pody and Orko, and we'll have them back here in no time. Cut to Orko and Pody walking through the forest with Zegon driving up behind him, a cool mechanical rhino, and I mean, I can picture that shot. Them walking towards the camera. You see Zegon come up behind them and have Act 1 end with them being grabbed and pulled into this mechanical machine.
There you go.
Oh, that would have you hooked. Like, He-Man's like, we're gonna get her back, and then the abduction scene. And then Act 2 would be the race to the temple. And I think you could do a menacing enough thing in that amount of time. Like I said, go through, have some actual monsters in there, some beasts, some vines, everything. And then cut with scenes of Rhaego telling Pody that she's going to do basically what's there. Like, you're going to do what I'm saying. You're going to get the more Firestones from me. Your village will fall. And then at the temple, you meet up for the confrontation after Rhaego got there first and successfully got the more Firestones.
Yeah. There you go. It would have been a better episode already, just based on, like, you're cleaning up a lot of the let's dump the moral on the kids the minute they start watching the episode, instead of let's let this play out, and then you can see the moral developing throughout, like they did in the more traditional versions. So
exactly. And then after that, basically it just He-Man versus Zegon, which would have been cool to see. And actually, I mean, it's a vehicle. I don't get why they did, like, the whole deflecting stuff and everything. Like, it's a vehicle. He has bashed up vehicles before. He does it to Skeletor ships all the time.
Exactly.
Like,
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, let him go to town on it. Let him punch some
Sure.
holes in it. Who cares? It's a vehicle.
It didn't help Zegon's cred for me in any way, shape, or form. Where when they're trying to fight He-Man, they're actually having it pop wheelies, even though the front leg is already destroyed because he's deflecting. So it's popping up to shoot, and then it falls down again. I'm like, this looks literally like something a kid on a playground would do. And then it's like, you didn't hit me, and then jumps up and does that, and then jumps down again.
I used to use. I hope someone else out there did this, or otherwise it's gonna sound weird. But like because I had like one attack track, one dragon walker. You only had so many vehicles, and I didn't even have them all. I used to use like shoes and slippers as vehicles with my toys. Did you ever do that?
No, but what I would do sometimes is if I had maybe like a weird looking vehicle for something else, I might use it in a story or something. But I've never used shoes.
I would go get like my slippers and like stick He-Man or some of my GI Joes in them and like slide them along the carpet like pew pew pew. So and
never did that.
You just remind me when you're like some kid on the playground. It's like, yeah, so this is me, like, this is my slipper pretending it's like this massive vehicle called Zegon. Like, that's what it feels like in the episode.
It does. And I mean, Rhaego is not a character they're going to go back to, but at least make him have enough weight to go, wow, these kids are in danger in this moment. Wow, he could do something really stupid if he felt like it and threaten the kids or do something, like one of them gets hurt or something. And it's just and I'm going to say I'm like 90% sure that's a John Irwin voice for him.
Oh, I thought it's
pretty sure.
Rhaego, you're talking about?
Yeah, Rhaego.
Oh yeah, that would definitely John Irwin.
And for as much as I love his He-Man and his Adam, it's like that voice does not help that character in any way, shape, or form either. And I kind of wish they would have said to him, no, make it a little more dark, because this version is very nasally and it's very much like he's just a whiny guy. Yeah. And I need to have something a little more. I don't want to not like something like this, but just a little less of a caricature.
I'm gonna disagree with you again. Actually, I thought that voice fit that villain perfectly. I did not have a problem with it because like I said, to me the aspect of Rhaego is he's the loser. He's the lazy guy who's like, I'm not gonna help you. I'm just gonna go. I want to go spend my money. I want to hang out by the fire with the girls. Like he's that sleazeball. So, it worked for me. I mean, we don't have to agree on everything, right? I actually
no.
I've actually been surprised how many all our other remasterings are pretty much on the same page. But I like the voice.
The one that I just went off script completely. What was that one? The Cosmic Comet one. I'm just like, I just gutted the damn thing, and it's like, it didn't work in what our confines are in this.
No, but it was still fun, and we still got to a confines. But...
Yes, we did. But his voice, like, it's there to be made fun of more, I think, and that's kind of the point for me.
Yes.
And but I feel like that makes it hollower in a sense for the way that I would like it to be. But because like the humor, I feel like that should be the Orko or Cringer, and he's too funny to me. And that's part of what, and it could just be the flashbacks of me watching it with my buddy and the voices he was making to offset what was happening. So it could be that, but I don't know. It just
to me
didn't sync up quite the way I hoped.
What's that old saying? Like weak men hide behind like. Oh man, I wish I could think of that quote. But basically, like to me, Rhaego is a weak man, and if it wasn't for Zegon or the Morfire Stones or whatever, like he wouldn't even be a threat. Like that's the whole point of the character to me. That's where I take the character, and it actually, if done right with some good dialogue, it can really set him apart from the other villains. Like he's not just this power mad villain of the week. He's a loser. Like he's had all the opportunities in life. He had this cushy job given to him by his brother, and he still messes up. I mean, we all know somebody like that, right? Like this guy that he's chance after chance after chance, and they're just not
Mhm.
worth it. You know, that's who he is. So, to me, I say embrace that and make him that guy. Where basically, once He-Man takes out Zegon, that's it. Like his plan is annihilated. You know,
Mhm.
and then at the end, just wrap up with you know, eh, you, rather than the necessarily it's not my faultness, you wrap up with the it lends more to like make sure a parent knows where you're going. Like don't run off. And Pody be like, well, I was scared, I was worried about it. And they're like, yeah, but think of what Rago
I
could
was
have done
scared
to
too.
you. Yeah, like play
Yeah.
up that like no, the same thing that was actually in this episode, but was way too early. Is no punishment is as great as you build it up in your mind. Just face the punishment because there's worse things out there, and
Mhm.
leave it at that. And maybe at the moral be a tag more along the lines of hey, always let a family member know where. Make sure someone knows where you are, because
Yep.
that is a very important lesson, and it
It
ties
is.
into the whole thing that it's responsibility and letting a parent know where they are. That's what I think needs to be the focal point of this episode.
Yeah,
And
and I think the only other thing then is the episode name has to change in order to remaster this one, because this one is so, again,
okay,
knocking you over the head with the point of it and all
right,
that stuff. And like when I saw this, the title card for this, when I watched the first time, I go, are they kidding? Like this is what the actual
right,
episode's called. We've had all the Daimar the Demon, and all this other stuff that it's like, it's not my fault. What? Yeah, like
yeah.
seriously. Or in
Okay,
my version
so
is I didn't do it.
I didn't do it. Um,
Oh,
so off the top of your head, if you can, because I agree. I think with the changes we made, the episode title doesn't match as much.
no.
Um, you know what? I'm gonna go a complete turnaround. I'm not even, and this is because I've had literally no time to think about this. But for my remastered episode, because I can't think of anything off the top of my head that ties into the whole theme, I'm gonna go Zegon the Indestructible.
I actually, just as a joke, I was gonna say the name should be "This is Zegon. We shall worship him," because I love that line so much. But
I do love that line. It's a lot. That line should stay in him. Like I said, when he activates Zegon in my first scene, he is saying that line.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, and that's fine. I think that's good.
but yeah, I
It's like
think that's it. It's like it's the Daimar the Demon thing. It's like you see that title card come up and you go Zegon the Ind. Like who's Zegon? And then once it starts and you find out, oh wait, no, not a who, a what? Like and
yeah,
he's
yeah.
indestructible. How's He-Man gonna do this?
Well,
Obviously
the
we
other
find out
thing,
he is destructible, but
hmm
that's where my mind goes.
if they would have designed it properly, Zegon probably would be one of those figures we would have hoped to have in classics.
Yeah,
Imagine having a giant freaking robotic rhino on your shelf. I mean, that would have been amazing. I mean, we have Stridor and all that
yeah.
stuff. Why not a giant rhino like that? So I like that idea. Zegon having something like that, or I guess this would give too much away. But I mean, hell, the search. I mean, geez,
Yeah,
having it say something like kidnapped in the vine jungle or something, or
yeah.
kidnapping in the vine jungle. So if you want to go really simplistic, doing it that,
See,
or
I
doing
think
like
they
the
would have gotten some.
Zegon
I think they would have gotten some kickback because you got to remember, you got to put yourself in mid
parental
'80s
groups. Yeah,
Filmation, throwing kidnapped in the title, maybe lost in the vine jungle,
Lost in the Vine
terrors in the
Jungle.
vine jungle, um,
hmm
Zegon
Midnight in the Vine Jungle, because it's at night. You could say
midnight vine
midnight in the
jungle.
Vine Jungle or
How about
something.
we?
Even though we don't know about the time telling in
Yeah.
Eternia and all that.
Um.
16 chronons until moonrise.
uh. Zegon, ruler of the vine jungle.
That would work.
You know?
There you go.
Yeah, something along those lines. I would flip it and
Zegon
actually
triumphant.
have Zegon triumph. Zegon, the living darkness. No, wait, that's something else.
Oh, there we go. There now you're crossing into my happiness. That's what the living darkness was the whole time. That beast was
It
just
was
like,
Zegon!
I'm a squatter, and then Zegon shows up after the beast. Oh gosh.
You know what though, Shawn? I'm gonna call this one remastered. I think we did a heck of a job changing this into
one
something.
was heavy lifting.
It was heavy lifting, but I think we accomplished it. I think the story that we laid out there is something. If I saw that, it would at least be an enjoyable episode. And that's it. We're not trying to get these things into the top tens, guys. We're just trying to make it so that where you want to watch it once in a while, or read it, whatever. I'm calling remastered. How about you?
I am. I'm going to say remastered too, because that opening bit you added, that was what it needed for me. Completely. So
dig
that
into
works.
the story. Larry did it in Dragon's Gift. You've got so many stories there. You've got Tullamore. You've got the Sky Tree. You've got Granamyr. You've got what humans did to Granamyr. You've got all this stuff that they never even explore, but it's there. That's what He-Man episodes need.
Yep. Exactly.
All right. So now that we have remastered, Shawn, I'm going to throw the floor over to you for a minute here.
All right. So last weekend on the group on Facebook, I actually had an evening to myself, and I said I want to draw something. So I put it out there, hoping the fans might throw a couple of ideas at me. Otherwise, I just go to the same well all the time with what I want to draw. Mm-hmm. And this time around, I got some really cool ideas, and hey, try this character, whatever. And I actually ended up doing 2 by accident, and it's the same character, so I'm not going to say I did 2 whole things. This was by accident.
Hang on. How do you do 2 by accident? Like you fell asleep, and when you woke up, it's like, wow, I drew this.
No, when I drew the one, I was drawing it, and that was like my Sunday night version. And then like a couple days later, after I'd already figured this one was almost close to done, I saw something that inspired me with the same character.
So you didn't draw 2 by accident. Your perfectionism got the best of you, and you're like, I'm drawing it again.
Well, what it was basically my Facebook feed ended up screwing up my head, and I had to draw this other version once I saw something that inspired me to draw it that way. I'm like, you know what? I got to see it through at least. So I went there. So, and this has been driving Matt nuts because I haven't shown him what this is.
Yes.
This is
not
the
seen
debut.
Anything more than you guys have. I have been bugging because I threw out something. A lot of guys threw out something. Do you remember who threw out whatever you did decide to draw, so we can give them a shout out? You know what? Okay.
I do remember who it was.
Okay.
So
you know what? Hang on. Hang on. Before you do that, hang on. Let me read all the options. How about that? That might.
Feel free. And I will say, I'm going to also say, just because one wasn't picked this time doesn't mean I'm not going to go back to that, as maybe I'll do that one another time or something too. So if you did throw ideas out there, but you're not wasting your time. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, and that's why I want to give all these guys a shout out, just because they responded, So Manny Gonzalez, he said the oldest and wisest of the dragons in Dark Smoke. That's Granamyr. Spoiler alert. James Hammond suggested Hero. Matthew Dooch, very smart gentleman, very handsome, good guy all around. He said Locust. Jeremy DeWitt said Tongue Lasher. Ryan Freeberg suggested Pee Wee Herman.
Yeah, I gave him a nice little gif on that one.
Now, I personally, not to fall too far into it, but I would have turned that into like a Pee Wee He-Man, like kind of combined He-Man and Pee Wee Herman, and had some fun with that. But Lacey Dean suggested Antlore, who is a deer or elk-based character that he's kind of spun around in his mind. And then James Matthew Byers said Anti-Eternia Keldor.
So there's a nice little list to choose from already.
So there was a good list there. So
yeah, So I appreciate that
drum
anybody
roll.
who contributed. And the one that I went with for the first time, I'm going to show the first version, and then
All right.
I'll show you the second one that I feel is the version I wanted to do. First version is
Granamyr. I like
and
that.
I did it with just this simple. Here's this shot of him,
Sure.
and like I'm not the biggest at drawing monsters, but something that I do like about drawing monsters is you get to have you get to go a little nuttier in certain aspects of like drawing the face, the eyebrows, things like that.
Yeah, like even
So
the details on the wings, you get the little bit of like the muscles or whatever, you know.
Yeah, and those aren't completely done, and that's where my feed ended up taking me down the other rabbit hole, to be honest. But at least the implication is there.
That's a beautiful rendition of him. I feel like he's judging me right now. Like, you are not compassionate enough, dude. I'm sending you to the realm of demons.
So then when was this? I want to say it was Wednesday. I sat down and I did this while my kids were at the park. So this is the revised edition.
Oh, wow. And that one you spend a bit more time on. I can tell it's more finalized. I mean, they both look amazing, but
do you notice a certain other thing?
No, I was gonna say I love that you put Skytree in there and the look on his face, like I got you now. You know.
Yeah.
No, that is awesome, man.
So that was the first ever. Hey, let's try to draw something fun challenge, and we'll go from there. And I'm planning on doing more as we go along. I'm gonna probably go back to that list though, because to be honest, that ant lore, my brain has been kicking around ideas. I'm not gonna lie.
Mine too. That's a neat concept to throw out there, Lacey. Very very interesting idea. There's a lot you can play with him too. You could do like an actual like humanoid elk type creature, or you could even just do like the armor route. There's the both options to play with there. Because Masters has both. You've got those humanoid creatures, and you got guys that are just upgraded, humans basically. So,
yep.
you could take that a lot of different ways. My mind was spinning on that one too when I read that. So. But congrats, Manny. You inspired Shawn. And that is a beautiful piece right there. And you got to make sure you scan that, put it up on the page.
Yep.
Send me a copy, and I'll insert it in here too, so people get a nice, crisp HD picture of it. And I wish I could draw. I wish I could draw half as good as you can, man.
I wish I could draw half as good as people I like Nate Marsh, for instance. Like, we're slumming it at the end. We showed the good stuff at the beginning with the She-Ra piece.
Oh, that is amazing. No, yeah, we did bookend it with great art. We got the She-Ra piece in the beginning, we got Granamyr at the end, so I don't know what else to say.
when you were like, so what are we going to talk about this week? That's why I was just like, okay, I know Dragon's Gift's at least a good episode, and it'll at least go, hey, it ties into what I drew, but I'm not going to promise that to be every case. But this time around, it made me think about that, and I go, yeah, we haven't done that one yet. We need to talk about Dragon's Gift, because I know the end of the episode is going to be interesting. So, yeah.
So I will say. I will say. So next week, for those of you who will hopefully tune in, we've got a very special guest star that will be joining us. You think we should give it away now, or you want to keep them waiting? We're already keeping them waiting on the remastering now.
Well, basically, we are kind of I'd say this is almost like a toe or two into a crossover idea here, because over close. On we
are borrowing him.
Yeah, we're borrowing him for the episode, basically, and I don't know if we have to pay royalties to Stephen Jeremy or not, because that's how I was introduced to him. But writer and comic book creator extraordinaire Matthew Rodriguez will be our guest on the show, which I know that's how Steve introduces him.
And that's why I gave it to Shawn, because I cannot roll my R's like that.
Yeah, he will be joining us next time, and we're gonna get into some 2000X goodness on the next episode for that reason. So
absolutely. So we got Matthew Rodriguez coming, who's an amazing guy, very talented. We're gonna have some fun with him. We're gonna be talking about Orko's Garden from 2000X, which is an amazing episode, and we've got a remastering again. So
yes,
and we'll be keeping that secret from now on. Yeah, so thanks for joining us today. Hit all those buttons down below, regardless what platform you're on. On YouTube, it's like, share, subscribe, ring that bell so you're notified when we go live. If you're on one of the audio podcasts, I know Podbean's got hearts. You can heart us. You can leave some comments. That'd be amazing, guys, because I know you audio listeners are really bringing it. I gotta say, a special shout out to you guys. We love all our viewers. But the numbers on the audio lately have been amazing. So thank you all. Just put a little shout out down there so we know who you are. Throw us out some ideas of what you'd like to see remastered or what you'd like to see us review.
Sure.
And thank you all. So until next time.
Until next time.